Hello and welcome to the 3D Code Experience. My name is John Pennington. We're continuing on with our tutorials with the Cubify fans from the Cubify fans blog. Today we're going to go a little bit further with using our stencils to make a model. I'm going to show you some things that have happened to me so that you understand that it's not something you're doing and that it seems to be based on the image I'm using to import my curves with. So without a delay, let's go into voxel sculpting to our blank workspace. I'm going to go up here to Windows and I'm going to make sure that I've loaded in my workspace. So I'm going to restore the tutorial workspace for today, and now I'm all set up to go. First thing I want to do is I want to get into a side view. What I'm going to be modeling today is going to be a rocking horse. First I'm going to start you off showing you some things that go wrong with the tracing tool. So I want to load in a shape, and the shape I want to load in is going to be this one right here, and this is just basically the parts of a horse. So let's bring this in, narrow it down. I really thought this was going to be ideal because here I have my head, my front legs, my back legs, my tail, my mane, and my body all on one layer or one drawing. And I thought, gee, this is going to be great. I'll save it in two different thicknesses because obviously the body's a lot thicker than the legs and the head, and the tail's even thinner yet. So, but when I go up here and I set a radius, let's say my first radius would be 12, so I'd be thin enough for the heads and stuff, and I hit enter, the program didn't recognize every curve. I won't play around with this to waste time on the tutorial. I just want you to be aware that this exists, and I think it has to do with the proximity between the curves, because I have another one. And so what we're going to do is we're going to Control Z out of that and escape out of this, and we're going to load in the other trace. And again, as you look at this one, you see how close everything is. So, and I still got my same radius, and I hit the enter button, and there are all of my parts just the way I wanted them to be the last time, but who knows why. If you were going to start something like this, my recommendation to you is to make two layers of this and call one thin, okay, and then call your next one thick. Alright, and now those two layers are now going to represent the import. So if I turn off the visibility of the thin and I select my thick, I go over here to my radius and I change this to say 35. Now I say OK and I hit the enter button. I'm doing the exact same import, doing a round border on both of those, but I've got a lot more thickness. So now the horse's body is where I want it to be. Okay, and what I would do is, as I would use my cut and clone tool, isolate these parts to their own layers. Okay, out of this thick one, the only thing that I really am going to save is the body. Now I could have imported the body on its own clip art, but I just felt it was faster doing it this way. Perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. Another thing I'm going to show you that I think is important, I'm going to start doing my layers off with in the same way they've got a root layer up here but it's unselectable. I want to create an empty layer, and that empty layer for this one would be called horse. From there I want to have all of my layers placed into this new layer called horse. So now, and the reason behind this is that I've got one to turn off everything, okay, but I can now selectively go down here and leave on or off each of the parts. The problem I was having, if one of my parts was on this top layer and I wanted to isolate it, I had to go down here and turn everything off. I couldn't just Alt click on the eye. Let me get out of this tool over here. Okay, I couldn't just alt click on the eye. So anyways, here I can go down and I can alt click on a part and isolate that, turn them all off, turn them all on. But if I go over here and do it, okay, if I wanted this part off, then I can't have these parts on. That was the big issue. If I wanted the main folder off, then I couldn't have these parts on. So from now on, I've learned, and I plan to have all of my lessons have a main folder, which will be usually the folder name will be whatever it is that I'm making, and the rest of the parts will be in underneath that. I may later merge them, I may later not merge them. So let's go ahead and do a new project. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to create a rocking horse using our Blob tool and some clip art. So let's get into our voxel sculpting. Let's click on an empty one. I actually have a shape in there. Let's just escape that out of that. We want to make sure that we're in the right view. I've been running in this, so there we are. Alright, I'm going to go to the side view, and I want to click on the blob, and I want to load a shape. This is the rocking horse that I was looking at when I decided to make these clip arts, and I put them on this part. So we're going to open those in and bring them in, and we're going to be okay. Just kind of center that in my viewport a little. Okay, so I'm going to go up here and name the main root rocking horse. This is going to be the empty layer. Okay, I want to click on the plus sign, not down here where it's add a new layer. If I add a new layer, it'll be on the same level as the rocking horse, but I want everything under my rocking horse for the sake of control and uniformity. So there, I'm putting it in there. Now the first ones are going to be my thin ones. Okay, so we're going to go over here to our radius, and we're going to call it 12, and then we hit the enter button, and there is the thin layer of the rocking horse. Looks pretty good. Let's go back to 4, bring it back up where it was. Let's add a new layer to the rocking horse. Now we could add layers underneath thin, and sometimes you will need to do that, but for right now we just want to increase a layer under the rocking horse. This one is going to be thick. Okay, and you could turn off thin if that will help you, but it's not necessary. Let's do 35 and see what that comes out like. The thin layer, I turned off the thick, has that planed kind of edge on it, okay, which is what these used to look like when my dad used to make these, okay. And then the body is a little more rounded because you want it to be comfortable for the child that would be sitting on it, obviously. Okay, so there we go, we have our layers. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the parts. First off, let's get rid of our curve, and let's go to the thick layer, and let's look at some things here. The horse head is of no real use to me, so I'm going to get rid of everything but the body and the saddle, and I'm going to do that with the cutoff tool, and I'm going to do that with I could go to the stroke lasso, but I like this one because I can just control it a little bit more, and I'm just gonna basically cut off everything except for I did this wrong. Let me escape out of that. Alrighty, so what I want to do is let's just cut off a couple things quickly to make it easier for me to click. Alright, that's gone. I thought there was a fast way to get rid of everything, but now I can get rid of more than one item, and those are gone. So the only thing left on my thick layer is the body and my saddle. I thought it interesting. I traced this exactly like the picture, that the saddle to me looks backwards. I plan to correct that as I assemble things over here. Now let's turn off the thick layer. I don't want the body, I don't want the saddle, so those things can be cut out of this layer. Okay, now I could have taken the time. Nothing happened because I'm on the wrong layer. Let's see if I actually heard it. I didn't, because it was invisible. Usually when a layer is invisible, nothing can happen to it. Okay, let me Control Z. Brings back my my trace. All I got to do is double click in there and they're gone. Okay, bring up my thick, and those are where we want them to be. Now what I want to do is I want to begin to put everything on its own layer. This is going to be important because let's say if I try to texture this with maybe a wood grain or something, not everything's going to go the same direction, so I'm going to want to be able to rotate my patterns if I decide to go there, depending on the time we have in the video. So the next thing we're going to do is separate the parts on their own layers, and some of the parts are going to be duplicated as we do that. Okay, to do that we're going to want to go to the cut and clone tool. Alright, and I like to have the freeform lasso, or the vertex lasso, which allows me to grab the parts I want. Okay, now as I do this, I'm going to name the parts. For example, the thick, I'm going to name it body, and then underneath that, and I'm going to leave it underneath that, I'm going to add another layer, and that layer will be for the saddle. Okay, so now I come over here. If you get a line like that, just hit escape, and we're on the cut and clone, and so I'm going to select the saddle now because we're giving it its own layer, especially since I have to. Okay, now I do this often. I did this a lot in preparation for this video, so I know it's a common mistake, and that is as I'm working on this newly created layer, but it's empty. I need to go back to the body, and you can tell you're on the right layer when things are highlighted. That's a clue to you. Alright, so now that I'm on the right layer, let's select the saddle. Now the saddle's selected. Now it's important, if I want this to be on the saddle layer, that I now select the saddle, then click, I'm in tool options, click apply. Okay, yes, we want to keep the size and everything the same. If you say no, it's going to look at the layer you're sending it to and change the resolution based on that layer. Okay, so that's a very critical thing you need to do. Okay, let's go ahead and now we're going to go to the thin one, and we're going to isolate some things from that side, because everything over here, and you can turn these off so you know that you've gotten your parts, and click cut and clone and you'll know that that's gone. So anyways, you don't have to turn them off. This just helps you to know I've finished the steps. Okay, so let's go back to thin, and let's call this rocker, because that's what I'm going to leave alone on this one. So that's going to be the rocker, and let's add back leg. And you know, depending on how you like to work, you can just add these now and label them front leg. Okay, and head, and I'm clicking on the plus sign next to rocking horse because I want everything to be attached to the rocking horse. Okay, so now I'm on my rocker, all my parts are highlighted, hit escape. Let's go ahead and get this back leg. And you just got to slow down when you get into the parts where they're closer. It's collected, it's selected, highlight the back leg, hit apply. Alrighty, now go back to cut and clone. You can make that invisible, that way you know it's already done. Make sure you select the rocker, which all the parts are on at the moment. I'm going to select my, let's select the head, it's real easy. Alright, we're going to put that on this layer marked head. I accidentally hit the archive, This is something I hope that they will change. I would like to see the archive button be moved over to one of these sides. It's just too often I hit it when I'm selecting my layers. I have to believe I'm not the only one. So there's the head. Something happened. Oh, because I had that archive. Okay, so when that happens to you, Control Z back to the selected item. Okay. Okay, so alrighty, so we're on the head and we're going to click apply, and then we're going to see it changed all my tools and everything went just with that little bit of mistake. And just to make sure it went right, I turn off the eye for the head. Okay, so Control Z until you see the headlight, the selection highlighted. The transform tool is back on the part you were working with. Oh, have a very dry voice today. Alright, go back to my rocker. We only have 2 more parts, or I only have 1 because one's going to stay on there. Let's go to cut and clone, select this leg, and that's that. Let's go to front leg, click apply, and that's it. Those are done. I'm going to go up here and select something that's a little easier to work with. There we go. Front leg, just close it. Rocker, close it. Okay, everything's dark, but now we're gonna just right click on any layer. Right click on any layer. You got to be careful not to go too high up. Show all hidden volumes. Everything's right where I want it to be. So now I'm going to use the transform tool and put these in position. At the same time, I'm going to need to make copies of the front and back leg and the rocker. The saddle will probably be the trickiest one, because I have to completely rotate it and resize it a little bit. Okay, so I need to go to my transform tool. I hit the space button, and my transform tool is number 4 in my reserved ones. And before I do too much, let's just do a front view. I just want to see how things are lined up. Sometimes they don't come in the way you want them to be. Okay, so everything's looking like it's exactly where I'm going to want it to be. Let's go ahead and go to the saddle. I don't think it's going to be as hard as I was saying. Let's start to spin, hit the space, and I want to do a 180 on this. And okay. And now let's go back to the side view. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Okay, it does need some resizing. Let's go back to the top, and let's just bring it out a little bit and go back to the side. Actually, let's kind of go this way with it. I don't want to make it longer, I want to make it wider. Okay. And this one I might want to just shape a little for my own sake. So let's go and put the move tool on this one. I'm just thinking that it needs a little more. Okay, I gotta adjust this a little bit. Some things that are important on the move tool is notice that first off, the larger the move tool, the more area it affects. Okay. That's very important that you remember that. So I mean, you want to move the whole item, you can just kind of, okay, and you see it's still deforming, but with a greater influence over more part. If you're just trying to pull, like say, some teeth in the mouth of a dinosaur, then you just want to be little points. Okay, maybe a little thicker than that, but you get the idea. So one of the things to look at is, first off, you want to remember that the alphas are important on those particular tools. Okay, so you go up to the top here and you've got the alphas, and you see the shape of the arc that shows the kind of bump that brush would normally make if I was painting with it. That has a lot to do with how sharp the pull is. Okay, so when I pull, see that pull to point, whereas if I go to this tool, it's going to pull a point as well, but a little more wider. Okay, and it has to do with the fall off that's in here. Okay, so I go to this tool, and it's more of a rounded, like a mountain. Okay, if I go to this one over here, which is real bright white with hard edges, this is going to pull almost like a disc right out of there. If you were to turn that sideways, you see a little bit more what it's doing. So every one of those will have its own special function. Now when you're doing these, sometimes you want to have control over the feathering, meaning, okay, see how that is right now with the sharp point on that. If I take the fall off, which is 30, and I'm going to bring it back to that, but I make it more like, say, 100%, look at the difference. It reduced how much was pulled out of there because it shortened the fall off. Okay, if I have no fall off, now I have very sharp edges. This will pull is the maximum that brush will pull based on the diameter of my brush. Okay, so most of the time you're going to find 30% to be a good fall off point for most of your brushes. The brush that is in the front here, that little bump right there pretty much is one of your best ones for most of your general moving stuff. Okay, now I may have to pull from a couple different angles to get the look that I really want, which is actually, that's not too bad right about there. Whoops, almost clicked on something. Yeah, I can live with that. I might want to push some of this in on the sides. Okay, you see how the disc perspectively changes its angle? Now see, I'm doing a lot of work from this side, so I want to make sure that I go around and look. Did I hurt myself? Did I keep what I wanted? And I think that's acceptable. Now the only thing that I don't like is the horn of the saddle. So let's see what we can do up here to change this. You notice I don't have any symmetry on this, and that would greatly enhance this particular item. So let me get my symmetry going, and I'm gonna put it on the X, which seems to be right in the center on this, so that's good. Alright, let's bring that in, and let's bring this up, and let's see what happens when we do this. If that, yeah, I think that just about did it the way I wanted it. Okay, so there we are with all that. I want the horn to look like it's separate-ish. Sometimes you got to get in there, and I realize in these videos that I forget to do that for y'all, you know. So you get in there, and going to make this brush smaller because it's moving too much. I'm wanting to just move to kind of neck this horn a little. I think that's about what I want. And now I need to bring back out some of the shape of this saddle. Nothing too hard, guys. Just take your time. Remember to save when you get certain places, because if something crashes, and with 3D graphics, crashes are common. Maybe it's your system, maybe it's the software, doesn't really matter. I'm going to consider that to be the saddle. I don't like this up here. I need this lifted up a little bit. I can get very fussy. I know this is a tutorial, so I will back off some, but I have a tendency to to want to overdo some things. Okay, so there's my saddle. My saddle looks good. Let's go to the body. I'm noticing now that I'm in here real close that the body needs some smoothing out. And one of the easiest ways to do that is first off, hold your Alt key down and click on the eye. Now all you see is the body. Obviously, to do this, we want to make sure that our symmetry is on. It'll cut the work in half. If you decide to do any modeling that is asymmetrical, then all we got to do is just turn the mirror off. Okay, if we turn it back on and apply it, we'll lose any of our asymmetrical. So when you go asymmetrical, you wanna go there and stay there. Okay, so all we're doing right now is using the smooth brush. I've got it at 100%, which is working fine on this. Sometimes 100% is too aggressive. If you're I'm going to do something and I'll undo it. If you're just losing too much of your shape, then undo it, Control Z, and then lower your smoothing. You might even change the size of your brush or the depth. All of these brushes require some practice and some experimentation to get to where you're comfortable with them, as you're seeing I'm starting to be. And some of my modeling coming up is going to be, click on the all, is going to be more me just doing and less talking. Alright, so there's the body. Let's go ahead and Alt click on the eye, and my parts are all back up. Okay, every one of these parts is going to need some of that, and there's different ways that you can smooth. You can actually smooth with the fill tool. Sometimes that works better than the smooth tool, because what it does is it works the opposite of the smooth. The smooth tends to reduce the hills. The fill raises the valleys. So it just depends on what you want to do. So when I go down here to my rocker, I'm probably going to sharpen it some, and we'll see what we can do when we get down there. Okay, the body and the saddle for right now are exactly what I want them to be. Let's go to the back leg. Let's isolate it. Alt, click on the eye. Use the smooth button. Enable that symmetry again, and let's get this smoothed out so it looks nice. Watch the bottom of the foot where it's thin. I will be putting this clip art on the blog, so you're welcome to try this for yourself. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Go back to the side view. Let's bring in the whole picture. Whoops. Control Alt. Alrighty, now we need a transform tool, and we're going to put it in position, and let's get behind it, which number 2 is the front, so number 8 is the back. Let's bring this over to where probably right about there would be a good spot for it. Let's bring it down, and then let's get back to the side and see what it's looking like. Okay, you can go in the middle here and do some freeform moving. Okay, let's go back to that back end and take a look at it. I think it's a little thicker than what I want it to be. I'm going to probably thin all these parts down just a shade like that. Okay, fortunately it's not a hard thing to do. Let me go back to my side view and see. Yeah, I like that down lower. See how I put that lower? Now I'm not looking at my reference image. I could have stuck the reference image in the back, but I think I can eyeball this one and pretty much know where I want to be. Alrighty, so now I've got the symmetry on, but what I'm going to do with the symmetry now is reset it. Okay, and I'm going to give this a little bit of a tilt before I get too far in this. Okay, let me just see what that looks like straight from the back. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And the whole purpose of that tilt is to spread the base out of the rocker a little bit. So I don't want these children falling over if they're playing on it. Reset my symmetry, put it up on the X. See how the symmetry is right there? I'm going to click the symmetrical copy, and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I have run into this quite a few times. I'm not 100% certain what is causing this. Okay, it literally cut the tops of my item off. Okay, let me Control Z out of that. Okay, I'm going to go to my smooth tool for a moment, and I'm going to hit it on here, and then I'm going to try this again, and it actually fixed it. Okay, so I'm not sure what caused that. Okay, now it's important that you use the tool on the side that you're trying to copy. So if I turn off the mirror right now and I go to my move tool and I come down here and I pull this over and I want this leg to look like this leg, I put my mirror back on. All I got to do is come over here to symmetrical copy and it'll duplicate that right over there. Okay, whatever one you last worked on is what it's going to duplicate. Now that helped me to understand some things because earlier in a video I was talking about rotating, and I used to cut this one off, put this one where I wanted it, and then bring it back, and I was doing a lot of extra steps. I could actually just rotate this one where I want it, hit the duplicate, or first off hit the reset on the symmetry. I'm going to undo out all of this just so you know. Hit the reset on my symmetry, bring it back up. Now my symmetry is where it needs to be. This is probably going to fail because that's crossing. Let me turn this off for a second. I just don't want to have anything going over the middle line because I know that'll be an obvious problem. Okay, so now reset my symmetry, turn the X back on, go over here and hit this, and boom, it copied it with the tilt. Okay, so that's a better way to do some things. Now I'm going to Control Z back to where I had the leg the right way, and it should be coming up soon. You'll see, yep, next one, and there it is. Okay, my symmetry is off. Let me turn it on. There it is. Oops. There it goes. Alright, so those are my legs, looking pretty good in my opinion from this point. Let's go work on the front leg. Okay, and let's isolate it. Alt, click on the eye, go to the smooth brush, and we just run around here real quick. Let me undo that. I want to put the symmetry on that X. Now the reason this is, I haven't moved the piece, so it's sitting, if you look at the front, it's sitting right on my 0 line. Okay, if I bring back up my transform tool, well, it's not quite there, but that's where 0 would normally be. I could zero it out right now, but it's not a big issue when I'm dealing with this. It'll it's close enough. Some things you can just let go. Okay, I have noticed that when I import curves and I use them to trace, that things don't always go exactly where I want them to be. That's smooth the way I want. Hold the Alt down, click the eye, everything comes back up. Bring up my transform tool, number 4. Let's turn the symmetry off on this one. Go to the front view. I want to line this leg up with this leg first. So that's all I really want to do is I want to kind of get this. Now, tool options. Right here you can pick your pivot. Okay, obviously if I pivot here, it's not that difficult, but it's not moving exactly where it would be easiest. This would be best to pin it right up here. So if I pick my pivot and I click the X here, now when I pivot, it swings almost right into position with that leg. See how that worked? Okay, reset your axis, go to my side view. Let's get this in here where we think it should be. I'm thinking that's about where the shoulder would be. You know what I'm going to do is, just because it's the right way, we're going to bring the grid up. So show the 2D grid. I don't want to snap to it, I just want to see it. Okay, and I'm going to lower it so that the bottom of that foot. Okay, so I can just get an idea of what this would look like if I put it on the bottom of that foot. Alright, now let's turn that grid back off. I could have hit my control and my apostrophe and that would have done it as well. There are shortcut keys to these. Alright, I'm liking that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Alright, so let's put the symmetry back on. Let's go to the front view. Looks like it's okay. Let's go ahead and just try hitting duplicate. Didn't work. Control Z. I find this more often than not, guys. Hit your smooth button. Just touch it. You don't really need to do anything to it. If necessary, turn this down so you don't make a change if you're working with real fine detail. But once you've done that, come over here, click this, and there you go. It's automatically copied over exactly where you wanted it to be. Okay. Again, I'm doing a very simple model today because I really want to highlight on technique and these little issues that I'm showing you. Because I think they're very important. All right, now I've got to deal with this skinny head and this fat body. So somehow I need to either taper the head, the body down, or widen the head. I'm going to attempt to widen the head and see what that does. If I widen the head, I'm probably going to have to taper it in the front, but we'll see here in a minute what we want to do. I could jump down to the rocker, which is obviously the quick, easy part, but let's see what happens. Okay, so let's play around with the head. All right. Okay, so we've selected the head. I don't really want to isolate it right now, but I want to go to my transform tool because we're going to experiment first. Let's see what will happen if we just widen it. It doesn't have to be as wide. And let's back it into it some. We're starting to hit it. There we are. I think it's going to be a combination of widening the head and, whoops, don't want to move it. Remember which tool does which. The cube is for scaling. The cone is like an arrow and it's for moving. Okay, I think I'm liking that. I'm going to taper the head in, or the horse's body in. So let me go to the horse's body. Let's isolate it. Okay, but I want to see the head, but I don't want to touch the head, so I'm making the head invisible. And I think I'm going to use the pose tool. Let's go to the side. We don't want to ignore back faces, we want them. And I'm going to stay in airbrush mode, paint select. And when you're in paint select, you actually just, okay, first thing is hide that gizmo. You can paint the area that you want to be able to be influenced. Okay, so this is kind of nice because I can decide, or when I'm in paint mode, I can decide some things. Okay, so I like that. I need to go around this a little bit more. Didn't quite get all the back spots. The yellow area is where the feathering is going to be. Okay, we don't want any feathering up here. Alright, so let's smooth the selection a little. Let's bring the gizmo back up. Let's go to the front, reset our axis, and let's just try this scale first, which is a scale towards the center. Gonna do a different scale. That, and then this. Now let me see what that's looking like. That actually has almost the look I want. Let's bring this up to, okay, I think we want to go a little tiny bit more. We will probably have to smooth some of this when we're all done. Let's go back. That's key. Alright, I think we'll be good with that. Let's hit the enter. That applies it. It's kind of squarish looking, so, and I know if I do this aggressively I can reduce some stuff. So let me go this way and just see. Yeah, exactly. Okay, get that roughness out of the body. Obviously I don't need the back of the head to be like that, so we're gonna fix that in a minute. Let's go ahead and bring up all the parts. I turned the head off. I'll click on the body now. That brings everything back up. Alright, it's looking a little odd because of the way I've placed the head. Now we can do some things a little bit differently. Go back to the smooth tool, hit it right there. Alright, I was smoothing on the head, and so the head was shrinking and not the body. I'm going to put the move tool on. I just want to bring these little bumps inward a little tiny bit. There we go. It looks pretty good. Now, if this was a real horse, I'd probably be concerned about that bump there, but because it's supposed to look like something that Grandpa made for grandchild, we're okay with it. Definitely deviating from the drawing, and that's okay. That's one of the liberties of art. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to smooth, and we're gonna hit this. I'm gonna go to the body, and we're gonna hit this a little more aggressively. I'm actually going to resample it. I do a lot of resampling when I'm it's already pretty low, 173,000, so I'm going to take it down to about 0.8 of that, which will take me down to 111, and I want to smooth, so we'll go that direction. Now when I go up here and I hit the smooth tool, see how much faster that works? Perfect. Okay. Now if you need the density, you can always bring it back in later. Perfect. I'm happy with that. Okay. It's interesting how without the mane and the tail that my horse doesn't really look like a horse. Alright, so let's look at the head one more time. Okay. I want to kind of taper it. I'm going to turn this rocker off because it looks odd under there. There we go. Okay. So what I want to do, let's do is in okay, so that's the top view. Let's get the symmetry on the X, and let me just check and see what happens. Yep, okay. I knew it wasn't in the center, but all I had to do was hit the duplicate symmetry to bring it over to where I wanted it to be. I'm going to attempt to do a tapering using the cutoff. I want to see what it does. I might have to smooth it when I'm done. Well, let's try that first. Okay, so I'm going to, I've got the stroke being the vertex lasso, so I'm going to select back here and come down to right about there and close that off, and that's going to be my selection. Okay, and hopefully I didn't take too much off the back. Let's smooth it. In fact, let's smooth it differently. Let's do a smooth all, another smooth all. Let's bring some whoops. Yeah, it's a little aggressive. Let's take that down. Let's take this down to about 30%. Okay, so we're at 30% now, and let's just, yeah, that's a lot nicer. I could probably have went down a little bit more, but I'm okay with that. Just check underneath here. Yeah, just took a little bit of the edge off. While I'm here, I might as well fix some of the deformation on the actual face itself. I think it looks pretty good. Let's go to the side view. Bring them up. See what we've got going. Alrighty. So, only thing we got left to deal with is the rockers, the mane, and the tail. Alrighty. So, let's take a peek at the rocker real quick here. Whoops. Alt on the eye makes it solid. Let's go to the front view of it. All on it. I'm not seeing it. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. So what I'm thinking that I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to do a cutoff. I want to sharpen the edges a little bit, but before I do that cutoff, I'm going to widen it some. So let's go to center mass on our. We're clicked on the head. That's why when I did the side view and then the front, it didn't go on my part because I was on the wrong layer. Okay, so let's go to center mass, reset the axis. Let's bring it up a little bit, get in here a little closer, and we're going to widen it now. Right about there, because I want to cut quite a bit off. Okay, so I'm going to go here to cut off, and just want to double check my symmetry is not on, so let's put it on. It's on the piece that we got. It's I like to use these controlled rectangles because they're a lot more precise than the other tools. There we go. See, that looks a lot better. It looks more like something that would have been cut out. I probably should have done this as a plane, but that was a decent fix. It's still got a little bit of a curved bottom, but I can live with that curved bottom. Alrighty, so before I smooth it, let's widen it. So let's go with a little bit more width again. Bring that about there. And let's grab our smooth tool. Let's just run it down the edge real quick. I want to make sure I didn't deform the shape of the end too much. There we go. Alright. I don't like how it did that very end, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to take this down to 15. Seems to be a little too aggressive. I'm going to flatten the depth some. I'm going to make the brush wider so it works a little bit faster for me. I'm keeping the brighter white dot in the center of my board as much as I can. I'm trying to follow the center of that board. There we go. Alrighty, and you can see the lines on that. So again, running right down the center, you can see how it takes that little bit of a chatter type mark. Almost looks like it's been run through the edge of a planer. Alright, so there's that. Let's bring everything back up. Alt, click on the eye, and there they are. Let's go to the front. Let's get the tool that will move it, and let's take it over here to around the feet. Let's go to the side, number 4, and let's bring it down. I'm going to actually go in a little bit, and I'll show you why in a minute. I'm going to go back to the front, and I want to pull these onto the outside just a little bit. I'm going to go to my symmetry. I want to reset the symmetry so that it's on the center of the horse, not the center of the object. And let's see if it'll let me duplicate it. Oops, it disappeared. It. Undo that, grab your smooth tool, keeping it low, just touch it, and then hit the duplicate symmetry, and there you go. You've got both of them now. Now the reason I kept it on the outside is I'm going to put 2 planks, one under each of the feet, and then we're going to do the mains, and then we're going to be done. But what I'm going to be doing next in another video is I'm going to be working on detailing this in a deeper way. I want to get into this a little bit more on the detailing side. What we've been doing so far has really been doing some basic modeling. Now I want to get in on the detailing. Again, let's throw in here the planks. Let's just use a cube. Let's go to the front. Let's lower it down. And first thing I'm going to do is scale it this way. Get this down to a size that looks more like a plank, and then I'm going to widen it up like this, going too far across the board. There we go, right about there. Doesn't look too bad. Let's see what it looks like from the side. Let's give it a little more width this way. Alright, so let's go to the number 4. Let's make the rockers transparent. And let's take the board over and put it right under the feet of the front. This one here I can duplicate, so I'm going to use the duplicate layer. And when I duplicate a layer that's in a family like that, it duplicates it in the family. So that's nice to know. New one will always be on the outside. Duplications will be on the inside. Any of the pluses will create more to the tree. This is not a rocker copy. I did something wrong. Undo. Okay. I never applied my object, so I need a new layer in here. And since it's part of the rocker, let's just go ahead and parent that to the rocker. It won't hurt it. So we'll apply that there, and then let's duplicate that layer. I didn't name these, but not much to name. Let's put it over here. Maybe put a little bit of a turn on it. Let's bring it right about there. Let's get this more like that. Let's go up to the other one. We'll do the same thing. Kind of put a little bit of a turn on it. And let's bring it more right about there. It's put the transparency back up on the thing. And see, now we have our hobby horse. We just need to create some mains for it. Alrighty, so these are just stands. Stand 1, stand 2. And the names, you see how we're losing our ability to see everything in the layer. That's the whole reason that I brought this down, was so that we would be able to see all of our layers. This is going to happen as models get more complex. If I got the personal edition right now, the only way that I would be able to make this in the personal edition is I would have had to start merging some of these completed layers. Okay, so you can still model very complex models in the amateur level or the educational version, but you just have to do some workarounds, and we'll talk about those things later when necessary. But you will be limited by your complexity. You will be limited in the ability to do specific type of detailing with ease. Okay, and so as long as you know that, you're all right. So I'm going to save this for the moment. So save as. And this will be in my saves, and I'm going to call it hobby horse. Some people call it a rocking horse. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to add to this some new layers up here, and I'm going to call this one the main. Yeah, main, M-A-N-E. And I might as well add another layer to the rocking horse, and this one will be the tail. And these should be the last two things I do in this tutorial. And then we're gonna make another tutorial to amend to this one, and it'll be the coloring, the detailing, and things. We're going to add the eye, the nose, some things. We may do it more than one way. We'll see how much time it takes to do it, but we're gonna go through detailing this model out a little more than what it is. Okay, so let's get on the main. I'm going to make everything invisible but my main for the moment, so that means you're going to see nothing. But we're gonna leave it for now. And we're gonna create the one in the back a little bit differently. We're actually gonna draw our own for the back, which is gonna be the tail, obviously. So let's go to Blob. Let's go to Sketch, and we're gonna just try and do a free form sketch. I don't want anything too, so let's just play with this a little bit. Not sure I like it any better than the first one. Just Control Z that, and let's go back to 4, and let's lower the transparency on everything so I can kind of work out of here. Okay, so we're going to come up and up and up and up and right there. I think I'm gonna like that. Let's see if we can smooth it some. Maybe increase the resolution. There we go. Not too bad. Alright, let's get the transform tool up, go to the back end. Let's zero this out. Center to mass, 0. Boom, right where we want it to be. Hit the 4. There we are. Let's bring up our opacities and everything else. Alt, click on the ball, and there it is. Let's see, maybe we can kind of give it a little bit more of a flip. Let's see just what might happen if we were to do a duplicate like we did on the last one. Sometimes the easy things are the best ways to go with certain. And let's duplicate that. Let's bring that over here. And let's tilt these a little bit this way. And this way. Alrighty. So let's see what that looks like from the side. Let's go up here and grab a hold of the rocking horse. Alrighty. So there's our rocking horse model. That takes us to where we want to be today. And I'm not as pleased with this, but I'm going to leave it where it's at for now. I know I can do a better one, but that was what I had planned, and that's what I'm going to stay with on this model. The tail in the back, I actually like it better. In fact, you know what? We're going to go ahead and change this mane out. But before I get rid of it, just in case I don't do what I think I'm going to do, we're going to just hide it. Alright, so let's add the new layer. And again, this will be, I'm going to call it main 2 just to be safe. Alright, and let's transparency the layers. Let's go to Blob, go to the side, and we want to do this. Now, we never put any ears on him, by the way, either. Alrighty, let's go to the front, bring up our transform tool, center it on the mass. Let's zero out the X. Whoops. Zero out the X, and there we go. And that's where we want it to be. Just get a quick brief look at that. Let's bring up the visibilities, but let's keep the main invisible. Okay. Yeah, I think I like that a lot better. Still kind of crude, but it is a toy. So go ahead and get the move tool in here a little bit. See what we can do with it. And then we'll be done with this. I don't want to get too far into this. It's really not. This is where I can turn into, you know, doing way too much for something that I'm not going to do anything with. But I am learning. I don't like the way I cut off the bottom of that. So let's go there. Let's get in a little closer, see what we got going on here. Let's bring this out further. Let's bring this one in. Let's bring this one out. Go back in. Okay, a little bit of a smooth. And I do mean a little bit, as these little things will disappear fast when you bring the smooth tools out. Alrighty, let's go back to my move tool. This one here is a little thick. Not sure that it needs to be. I think I like that. Let's put the transform tool on it, bring it deeper into the model for a moment. Yep, I think that's exactly what I want. Yeah, I like it. Alright, so I'm going to go up here to the main and I'm going to delete all three of these. Delete. Delete. And so my main 2 now, which is a single layer, is the new main for this project. And there it is. The hobby horse. Thank you again for watching 3D Code Experience. I look forward to showing you what we're going to do with this in continuation. I plan to go into coloring it, possibly put some wood grain texture on it. Maybe I'll do some detailing on that saddle where we put some rivets in it. We're definitely going to do some detailing on the face. I need to throw some handles in it, and I need to throw some ears in it, and it'll be completely done. But for now, this is your hobby horse with the 3D Code Experience. John Pennington, Cubify fans, you all have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.